Hi, Addy. We are going to do lesson number 40 for today. This one is going to be super fun, okay? You are going to start out with a bunch of fractions that you need to reduce, and that's going to be good, really good practice for what's in this lesson that I think you're really going to like. It goes over simplifying decimal numbers and then comparing decimal numbers. So I think it's going to be pretty straightforward for you because you're a smarty pants, and I know that you're going to catch on to this right away. So enjoy one that's a little less challenging for once and have a great day, okay? Oh, get ready to do your 5 minutes of fractions, okay? Ready, set, go. Okay, hi there, Addy. You should have done your fractions to reduce by now, and we are going to jump into the rest of lesson number 44. And I just thought you'd enjoy this because you love doggies. You recognize that from Sandlot, right? What's that dog's name? Write down what his name was on your homework or text it to me. I forgot it. Okay, here we go. We're going to jump right in. So this is going over simplifying decimal numbers and comparing decimal numbers. So I think you'll know some of this, but simplifying decimal numbers will definitely make your life easier. So that'll be a really, really good thing to learn. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to count out up and down by 1/8 between 1/8 and 3. So here's our mental math again. I gave you a beautiful picture to look at as we do that. And remember, we're going to do 1/8. Whoops, let me get a different. We're going to do 1/8. Oh, I can't even see that color. Give me a color I can see. Come on. How about this purple? Okay, 1/8, 2/8, but that's going to be able to reduce down to 1/4, right? And then 3/8, 4/8, but that one's going to reduce to 1/2. 5/8, 6/8, but that's going to reduce to 3/4, 7/8, and 8/8. And I'm having a winter theme going on today, so you'll notice a lot of snow pictures, okay? So we're going to count up and down by 1/8 between 1/8 and 3. Ready? Here we go. 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, 1, 1 and 1/8. 1 and 1/4, 1 and 3/8, 1 and 1/2, 1 and 5/8, 1 and 3/4, 1 and 7/8, 2, 2 and 1/8, 2 and 1/4, 2 and 3/8, 2 and 1/2, 2 and 5/8, 2 and 3/4, 2 and 7/8, 3. And it also said to count down, so now we're going to do it backwards, right? We're going to start with 3, and then we're going to do 2 and 7/8, 2 and 3/4, 2 and 5/8, 2 and 1/2, 2 and 3/8, 2 and 1/4, 2 and 1/8, 2, 1 and 7/8, 1 and 3/4, 1 and 5/8, 1 and 1/2, 1 and 3/8, 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/8, 1, 7/8, 3/4, 5/8, 1/2, 3/8, 1/4, 1/8. Okay, hopefully I didn't go too fast there at the end for you, but I think you're learning how to do this by now. All right, now we are going to do the rest of mental math. Let's see if you can do 4 times 325 in your head. Remember, maybe do 4 times 300 and then 4 times 25. Just a suggestion. You can do it however you'd like. Okay, how about B? We're going to do 426 plus 35. Here's your winter snowstorm to look at. C, 28 plus 57. Okay, how about D? $8.50 plus $2.75. E, what is 1/2 of 1,400 or 1/2 of 1,400? And then F, what is $15 divided by 100? Write your answer. And work really hard to try and get this one right, because I know that sometimes you struggle when you divide by 100. So check your answer, multiply it by 100, and make sure that you get this again, okay? You're going to move the decimal point 2 places, right? Okay, no more clues. What about G? G, we're going to get a number that's starting with 6 times 8. Then subtract 3. Divide by 5. Add 1. Multiply by 6. Add 3. And divide by 9. What do you get? Okay. Rewind back and do that again if you need to, but I am going to go right ahead and jump into problem solving because this one is super fun. You are really good at this. I've never been good at this, but I know that you're going to get this one right away. Problem solving says that Gina folded a square piece of paper top to bottom. So it was like this over here, and she folded the top so it came down and touched the bottom right there, right? Okay, now, then she folded the paper in half from left to right so that the four corners were together at the lower right. So she turned this originally into something that looked like this, but it was closed all the way. And then she's going to fold this in half so that this goes over to there. Okay? And then she's got the four corners there, so she ends up with something that looks like this. Then she cuts off the lower right corners. These are where the four corners meet. The four corners are going to meet right there. So she's going to cut that part off, and she's going to cut it just like that. Okay? And then it says, draw a picture of what the paper will look like when it's unfolded. What shape is this? All right, let's see if you can figure that out. That sounds a little tricky to me. So you're definitely going to have to pause it there while I go on to the new concept. All right, and the new concept says this. Perform these two subtractions with a calculator. Okay, so here's the two subtraction problems that they want us to do. The first one looks like this. It's 425 minus 125. Now this looks a little bit like some of the mental math that you've been doing. So you could probably do that in your head and you would get the answer of 300. Okay, now what about if we did this one? 4.25 minus 1.25. What answer do you get? Now, if you plug that into a calculator, you're going to get an answer. Does it look like this one? And it turns out that if you plug it into a calculator, the calculator is only going to tell you that the answer is 3. It's not going to say 3.00. So, some calculators leave the decimal point at the end of a whole number. So 3.00 is just going to be simplified by a calculator to just the number 3. So using pencil and paper, we usually remove the decimal point from a whole number, so we would only write 3. So when you get a problem like this and you want to write the answer, you can remove those and then you can just have your answer be 3. And that's perfectly fine because that is the answer to 4.25 minus 1.25. All right, so calculators automatically simplify the decimals. It's not going to simplify it if there's a bunch of numbers after the decimal like that, but if there's just a bunch of zeros after the decimal, then it will simplify it. Okay, so let's go into example 1. Example 1 says multiply 0.25 by 0.04 and then simplify the product. Okay, so first we are going to multiply this problem. All right, so this is actually a little bit tricky to multiply. So I want you to make sure that you follow along and get it right, okay? So when we multiply something like this, we are going to start by multiplying in the, well, it's usually in the ones place, but it's the one that's the most to the right. So we're going to do 4 times this, times this, times this, okay? So we're going to start with 4 times 5. And 4 times 5 is going to be 20. When we write 20, we're going to write the 2 in the next one over and the 0 here, okay? Then we're going to multiply what is 4 times 2, and that's 8, and we're going to add 2 to that. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So we're going to write that there. Now, all of these other numbers, and then basically when we multiply 4 times 0, you get more zeros on the other side, but you don't really have to write those. Same with these zeros down here. You don't have to do 0 times everything, because if you did, you would just get a bunch of zeros that you just have to add at the bottom. But of course, when you add zeros, it doesn't add anything at all. So you can just stop there because there's no other whole numbers to the left of the 4. So if we stop there, this is the answer, but it's not the whole answer because we have to deal with these decimal points. Now, we have to count over how many times does the decimal point moved over. So on the top one, it's here. So it's over 1, 2. So it's 2 spaces on the top. What about the bottom one? It's also 1, 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So I need to move the decimal, which is here, 4 spaces. So I'm going to go, well, let's see. Let's see if I can do it that way. I don't know if I can do it that way. I've never really tried. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it actually goes there. That's where the decimal would go. So the answer to this problem, and I don't like it starting with the decimal, so I'm going to add another 0 there. So it's 0.0100. Now, anything that is to the right of this whole number, we can just drop that off, just like we did with the 3.00, because these zeros are kind of meaningless after that whole number. They don't add anything, because you could add zeros forever and it doesn't change the number. And in fact, if you put these numbers into a calculator and figure it out, the answer that it gives you will be this. So to simplify it, we just take away those extra zeros to the right, and this is the correct answer. Now, let's go over, what if we do this on a calculator? If we put this into a calculator, it would just simplify it automatically to 0.01, and it gets rid of those extra zeros to the right of that whole number. Now, we're going to compare decimal numbers here, and hopefully you're not falling way asleep like Anna is here. So if you are, wake up, because this is going to be important. We're going to compare decimal numbers. So here we're going to compare 0.3, 0.30, and 0.300. Now, we just said that zeros at the end of a decimal number don't affect the value at all. So all of these actually have the same value. And you could even simplify these by taking away these extra zeros, and then you could see that they all have the same value. Now, every once in a while, sometimes it's useful to actually add extra zeros in. And one of the times that it might be useful to add zeros is when you're comparing decimal numbers. It might be easier to compare decimals that have the same number of spaces. So we're going to do an example that looks like that. So example 2 says it wants us to compare this number 0.3 to this number 0.303 and find out which is greater, or are they equal, or what's the deal. Okay, so now we see that it might be a little tricky to compare it, and one of the ways to make it easier is to add some spaces here. So because it's tricky, because this has 1, 2, 3 spaces past the decimal, this only has 1. So if we add a few extra spaces here, it doesn't change the value if we add a couple extra zeros to the end of that. So 0.3 is actually the same as 0.300. And now it's a little bit easier to compare, because here we have on the left 300 thousandths. Whoops. Remember that? So it's 300 thousandths, and this one on the right is 303 thousandths. So what we're comparing is 300 versus 303, and then I think that you can see that 303 is greater than just 300. Okay, so that's how you would write that answer. All right, super exciting, right? I know you can't wait to do another one, so let's do another one. Here we go. We're going to do example 3. So example 3 says, arrange these numbers from the least to the greatest. So we have to put them in order from which one is the lowest number to which one is the highest number. Okay, so the way that they say to do this is to make it look even. Which one has the most decimal places? This one has 1, 2, 3 past the decimals. This one also has 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to make them all have 3. So let's bring this one over a little bit. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add some zeros here. And then we're going to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to give myself a little bit more space. And I'm going to do another 0 because that way I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 spaces past the decimal. So now I'm comparing the same thing, and I can just look at those as if I'm saying, well, this one's 300 thousandths. This one's only 42 thousandths. This one's 240 thousandths and 235. So now it makes it easier to compare, and I can see that the lowest number is going to be this one because it's only 42 thousandths. So I'm going to put that one first. And what comes next? The next one looks like it's going to be one of these, either 240 or 235. And I think you can see that 235 is a lower number, so that's going to come next. Then we're going to do the 240. That one's next. And then the highest number is actually the one that had the lowest number of place values, but it's 0.300, which is the same as 300 thousandths, or 3/10. So that one goes at the end. Okay. Now that we have them in those locations, they said that you can simplify by getting rid of those extra zeros. Okay, so we can just do that. And then these numbers are still in order from least to greatest. Okay, so hopefully you followed along with that. And if you did, then you are ready to jump right into your homework. I can't wait to see what you do with it, Addy. Love ya. Bye.